Welcome back to the Growing Band Director Podcast. This is episode number 138, grade 1 repertoire part 2, as part of our 6-week Thursday episodes for getting you ready for festival season. I'm here with Terry White, and we both think that people should be bringing their band to festival or creating a festival experience for your kids somehow. Terry, thanks for being here.
Looking forward to it. It's always been important for me to take my students to the festival and yet pick the right festival to go to. I think it is important. If it involves a clinic situation, you don't have to go for ratings necessarily, go for the comments only, feedback for the kids. And especially if you're teaching younger kids, the experience of getting there in one piece and coming back and will pay dividends for the high school person.
Just a meeting with Lonnie Westcott a couple months ago, and he said, if you have the wrong program, it makes you not want to get out of bed in the morning. So like this, people ask the secret to like, how can I get my band to be really good? Like there's not a secret, but like key number one is the appropriate level of literature. So this stuff is, I mean, if you haven't heard the first grade 1 and the first grade 2, go back a couple of weeks and listen to those. But here's sort of the cause and the mission behind all this. Have high standards for what pieces you will let onto your students' concert programs. Keep listening until you find what fits them the best. Customize each and every program you give them as if it was prescribed especially for that group of kids. If a piece is really cool but does not fit them now or for them to grow into shortly, then don't use it right now. Just because you like it doesn't mean you should use it. These segments will be broken up into 3 programs, a march, a ballad, and a final piece, but you can mix and match any of these pieces to fit your band. If you really like a piece, put it on a list with some notes that when it fits your band, you want to use it on a program, you have it available. If you think a piece is good for your kids in the next year or so, start a new concert list to get ready for concerts down the line. All of these pieces are super cool, even though they are grade 1. People think that grade 1 is not as cool. They are incorrect. Grade 1 and 1.5, highly doubled, no more than 3 or 4 parts at a time, typically. Cues are very common, wide range of difficulty within each grade level. So choose for your band, not the number. The pieces are pretty short.
Yeah, I've had a couple of high school bands in different schools. One was a grade 3 band. They could nail grade 3 musically, and 3.5 was just beyond their reach. And we were talking about Ann McGinty in one of the earlier episodes. When I took that band and we played some of her pieces, her comment to me was, "This is a very musical group." That meant more to me than anything. I've had a grade 2 high school group, and that's what they could handle. Nobody wants to go to a festival and hear the kids, I'm not talking about the occasional brain cramp or the kid forgets the key signature, but if I hear Trumpets of Splendor and none of the trumpets play B flat throughout the piece, that's pretty painful.
If your trombone section can't play, don't play Trombone King.
Right.
I mean, it's got to fit the group.
Sure.
So again, these are going to be in groups of 3. It's thinking of like a 3-set series, but again, they can be mixed or matched. The first one is called All Ye Young Sailors by one of the best writers ever for band, Pierre LaPlante. It's a great first piece if you want to teach 6/8 with your students. It's in B flat major and it's very short.
Yes, I used to do a piece, it was published by Alfred, by John Kenyon, called Songs of the Sea, long out of print. And I had to do a little doctoring of the percussion parts, but it transitions into a cut time. It wasn't cut time on the page, but if you play at the right tempo, the kids are really playing cut time. This is a great solid replacement.
Yeah.
And he's a great writer, but he's one of the nicest people on the planet.
There's another piece you alluded to with the cut time and 6/8 in the same one. If people haven't played Castle Bay by Gene Milford, it's a grade 2, so it's not in this level, but that's a great piece to check out too. So here is All Ye Young Sailors.
At Twilight by Tyler Grant. I found this to be a really nice lyrical melody with interesting harmonic structure. Uses tension and resolution. Those inner voices are so important. I would much rather play those as a player than the melody sometimes. and introduce students to programmatic music.
Yeah.
And that's so important. We forget, a lot of us, we've been exposed to this our whole lives and our careers. So we forget you're dealing with students who haven't had any exposure to programmatic music or marches, things like that. What they listen to in their world is totally different than the band world.
This is one of Tyler's most popular pieces. If anybody hasn't heard it, episode number 123, I sat down with Tyler for over an hour with some of his pieces and his teaching career and all that. So that's a great listen if you want to check that out as well. I have this written. It's simple rhythmically, but a beautiful piece. Attention span is needed as it's a little bit more than 3.5 minutes long, which for a grade 1.5 ballad is a thing. Yeah, so let's check it out. Here's At Twilight, Tyler Grant. The third piece we're going to use on this set with all you young sailors and At Twilight is Heroes Triumphant by William Owens, great writer. This is a grade 1.5. This was recommended to us by Don Zentz. Shout out to Don, one of the great teachers in the country. He teaches at Douglas Anderson School of the Performing Arts, is my guess. Amazing teacher, and happy to do this piece. What do you think of this piece, Terry?
The active rhythms will definitely keep the kids engaged. Solid percussion writing, not just boom chick stuff. Borderline grade 2. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
Grade 1.5, and only 1.5 minutes. So it's not a lot of time to have to.
So again, these three pieces together, I mean, At Twilight's as long as the other two combined. So yeah, I wrote down, you need a strong snare drummer. But again, the way the woodwind parts are written, they're impressive, but not hard. It's like F to G or G to A on clarinet. Could be used as an opener or a closer. So here is William Owens's Heroes Triumphant. All right. So the next set we're going to use starts with a march by Michael Story called Plaza de Toros. This is a Spanish march that uses many accidentals, 6 percussion parts. C minor reminds me sort of El Relicario, light.
Got plenty of unison melody, great percussion writing for grade 1 to keep the students engaged. The 16th notes are easier for the percussionists at this level, but very doable.
Yeah. So this is a 1, not a 1.5. So here is Plaza de Toros. So the ballad that we're pairing with this was recommended by Terry White, who is here. This is Song for Friends by Larry Dan. I have it as a 2.5-minute lyric piece. Simple rhythms allow students to make beautiful music together.
It is. And I've heard a couple of college bands use this for training purposes, for lyrical playing and breathing. I've used it with my kids, especially to teach them breathing. I would say to kids, how many people just played that section and it's marked mezzo piano and you took mezzo piano air? And the kids all, okay, I want you to play it again, but I want you to take fortissimo air, but play mezzo piano. The sound changed instantly, especially in the woodwinds. I think, and I'm maybe biased, I think it's the greatest grade 1 piece for lyrical playing that's been written. And it's got a key change in it, which is not customary for grade 1. And I've done it enough times that I can almost tell you before we even play the piece, Billy's going to miss that key change. He's going to miss the B flat and the clarinet because it's consistent. You almost want to go and take the parts ahead of time and put the flat in just as a reminder, but no, you just grit your teeth and that's how they're going to learn. It's terrific. I think a high school group would have this. If you don't like to do Bach chorales or whatever for warm up, this would be a great piece for that. Flute parts are not high at all. And it's rhythmically very easy to put together.
One thing you could do too with the middle school group of kids, like talking about their friends, like dedicating a piece to one of their friends, or like playing it the way you would want to support a friend, or like you can make this a more like emotional type of thing too, with those kids, just because of the title, Song for Friends. in episode number 123, when I was hanging with Tyler Grant, 0 to 60 is one of the pieces he wanted to do. And he talked about being a teacher and going to a festival with his kids on the roller coasters. So he said when he uses these little mini chromatic phrases, which is used in 0 to 60, they're like little roller coasters, small groups of chromatic notes. So he wrote this piece to sound like you're on a roller coaster. 6 percussion parts, uses flexitone. I had to mention that because it's super cool. And it's in C minor. And you'll hear how he carefully crafts the chromatic stuff into the piece.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge in grade 1, probably leaning more to
1.5.
Yep.
Yep.
And with the chromaticism. But again, as I mentioned earlier, you know, you can't push range and you can't push rhythms. You know, when the kids are ready, they're ready. But you can teach a note. You know, teach the fingering for the note, and it might involve some pencil work on this one for reminders for kids, but I think it's well worth it.
And the opening is aleatoric. So if people haven't seen that, it's where you have the group of notes in the boxes and you play it for a certain amount of time. So it's going to be different every time. And that's super cool for kids. So here is our closer with this set. Again, if you're doing a Spanish March, Plaza de Toros, Song for Friends for the ballad, and then 0 to 60, this one really is for the kids going on roller coasters. So here is 0 to 60, Tyler Grant. Okay, our final set here is going to be 3 pieces that we could use. Again, you can mix and match any of these that work well for your group. This is a piece called Best Friends Forever by Joseph Campello. Did want to mention he has a great piece for beginning band called Aunt Rhodey's Appetite, which you should listen to and do with your beginning band if you ever want to. This is sort of like a British band. If you did it in cut time, you could do it in slow cut time or a faster 4/4. It's an E flat major march, can be done in 4/4, cut time, battery percussion, timpani, mallet parts, 3 parts max at any one time.
Yeah, the first strain has the woodwinds playing on the repeat, which is kind of cool for kids because that's not uncommon in more advanced marches. The second has the dogfight section, and the final strain has the brass and woodwinds reversing their roles. The ending has a tag not usually associated with many marches. And as far as the cut time thing, it's been my experience, especially at the British band tempo that we're taking. Don't make a lot out of it. You know, just let the kids play it. It'll find its level at some point. I think sometimes we can overdo it in trying to teach, and the kids will get confused with all the counting. This music it'll play itself.
Yep. All right, here's a great grade 1 march. Joseph Campello, Best Friends Forever. The ballad that we're choosing to put along with this is Rob Grice's piece, Too Beautiful for Words. It's written in 3/4 time. The melody's in low clarinet, alto sax, and horn, and trumpet and flute. There is a rehearsal piano part or optional piano part, B flat major, timpani, bells, auxiliary percussion.
My kids love this. I played it probably every other third year or so. 7th grade, so third-year players and 8th graders would have no difficulty with this. If you wanted to take the time, they'll get right through it, and then you can spend the time on all the musical things. I really enjoy his writing. I've done several of his compositions. He's published through Barnhouse, but you can go on the My Score thing at J.W. Pepper, and he has more pieces there. He really writes beautiful music. The inner lines have that I don't want to say tension resolve, but 9-to-1 type things that make the inner parts really interesting to the kids, especially when you tell them they should be interested in that, because it's really beautiful. That part's really important. You're not just playing second clarinet. And once you tell them that and they're aware of it.
There's so few composers who can write at the grade 1 and 2 level really musically,
right,
within a certain range, and he's definitely one of them. So here's Too Beautiful for Words, Rob Grice. Our final piece of this series, again, there will be another one coming up next Thursday, will be released as well as our second part of grade 2. This is Imperium by Michael Sweeney, which was recommended by Tony. Thank you, Tony. A majestic piece with slow opening, and then most of it is in the faster tempo. Key of E flat major, 5 percussion parts with no timpani.
And 16th notes for the snare drums, very doable. I think it's ideal for a group that the percussionists might be a little beyond where the wind players are. And that happens a lot. I mentioned I hadn't performed this because, to be honest with you, I could do like a Michael Sweeney festival and do, he has such great stuff. So you sort of have to pick which one you're not going to program.
All right, enjoy. Hope you enjoyed this. Here's Imperium, Michael Sweeney.
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.